The John Spytek and Pete Carroll era begins. Let's talk about it right now, guys. I am so fired up. Welcome back, everyone. As I said in the intro, I am so fired up about this hire. I think the fandom is too. How about you? Are you as fired up as I am? If you are fired up, I want you to drop a comment in the comments below and say how fired up you are. 1 fire, 2 fire, 3 fires, 5 fires. I am 5 out of 5 fired ups. So put your flame emojis in the comments below. I watched the press conference. And I want to go through a few things. So let me get the order of the business all together. I want to quickly review the press conference. I want to talk about the coaching staff. I want to talk about the roster and some players and a little bit of bonus. We're going to talk about the draft. All right. So before we get to it, guys, I got to shout out my channel. So before I get too fired up, I don't want to get too fired up just yet. I got to plug the channel. Please subscribe, like. If you want more Raider reactions, please hit the subscribe button. Monday nights, every Monday night at 5:30 p.m. West Coast time, we do a live show. Check us out. Hop in the chat. It's just a couple of friends bullshitting, talking about sports. We would love to bullshit with you and talk more sports. All right. So Mark Davis does the introduction of John Spytek and Pete Carroll, and they do their introductions. And I know you guys probably already seen the press conference 5 times and analyzed everything in it, just like I did. But first, I want to talk about the 3 rules of Coach Carroll. So the reason why I want to start here before we really get into the press conference is because throughout the interview, this was kind of brought up, and throughout the interview, it was, about the commitment to the program and what you need to be and what you need to do to be a teammate, to be on this team. Pete Carroll's 3 rules. 3 rules. 1, be early. It's all about being organized and showing respect. 2, protect the team. Are you helping or hurting the team? Every decision has an impact. No whining, no complaining, no excuses. Positive attracts positive. Negative attracts negative. 3 very simple, easy to follow rules, right? So that was very clear throughout the press conference of what guys needed to do. The expectations is going to be very clear. And the quicker you can buy into these rules, the quicker we can get you to where you need to be. He talked about finding the football player and putting him in a position to succeed. And John Spytek, he's going to have the opportunity to really turn this roster over. Spytek in this, he gets a 5-year deal. And I think really this is because he has to get his sea legs. This is the first time he's going to be taking on a job like this. He was an assistant. He's going to have to grow into this role. He's going to have to grow into his leadership. And I thought it was, Coach Carroll, he said something really interesting to me in the press conference. And it was interesting to me. He talks about Spytek's first time in this, being promoted to the guy. And he says something like, we're going to celebrate that, tonight. We're going to do a special celebration tonight. And I thought that was really cool. Because throughout the interview, Pete Carroll did reflect when he was a first-time head coach and his challenges and his struggles. And I think he recognizes that Spytek is going to have those moments of learning, on-the-job learning in a very high-profile, high-stressful position. The Raiders haven't won in a really long time. We all want to win now. We want to be in the playoffs this time next year. I don't know if that's going to happen. There's always hope. Is that realistic? I don't know, but we've seen the NFL has the highest probability of a team going from last to first in a short amount of time. It is possible. Spytek gets the 5-year deal, and I think that's to grow into his role, to learn who he is and how to run a team and all of that. I just thought that was really unique how Coach Carroll broke that down. And, coaches need coaches too. And I think Pete Carroll sees that, GMs need coaching. We all need coaching in our thing. And that's just a healthy thing to have, that when you have a really good group of friends, they coach you, you learn from your friends, it's all about, your sphere of influence and who's impacting you. So this just all really makes sense that, I have mentors that I look up to in my life, and the wisdom that they want to pass on, the wisdom that they want to share. Pete Carroll, we know the number. He wants to pass that on. He wants to pass that on to Spytek. He wants to pass that on to the players. That's the whole point of being a coach. He's teaching at USC right now. He's doing a class. This man teaches football. He teaches the gospel of football according to Pete Carroll. It's his way of doing it. It's not Bill Belichick's way of doing it. John Spytek is going to do a little bit of his way, and Tom Brady in the mix. And this is the Raider way. That's what they're trying to develop, is the Raider way. And I think this is an absolute amazing, high quality starting point. I really like this. There's a couple moments of Coach Carroll going back and forth with the reporters, and he's just getting fired up. And he's saying, he goes on a little longer and tells a little extra story about being fired up. Oh, you got me fired up. I'm going to keep going. His energy is contagious. Like I said, we know he's 70 plus years old, but the energy is contagious. It made me want to run through my TV. I wanted to go play NFL football, and I haven't thrown a football since 5 years. I don't know. 3 years. I think I threw a football to a buddy of mine like 3 years ago in the back of the warehouse. There's this really great moment where, at the time, he didn't know, but Marshawn Lynch screams, "Raiders!" And Pete Carroll says, "Mark, settle down." And it's a sense of humor of Coach, tied in with the rules, tied into the thoughtfulness, tied into the Zen master, that was, presenting itself and tapping into one's inner self and getting coached up and putting all the right things together to be a good man, a good person, and a high quality football player. Like he's really thoughtful. He's a really thoughtful person, but he also has a comedic timing. And I just thought it was fantastic. He did not know it was Marshawn Lynch. And then they get into the hallway, and I love this moment where Marshawn Lynch and Pete Carroll are embracing, and you hear Pete Carroll just innocently like, was that you who yelled Raiders? And Marshawn looks at him. He's like, "Come on, Coach." I just thought the bond, the honesty of their friendship was so cool, so inspirational, that this 70-year-old white dude is buddies with 40-year-old beast mode. You just would not pick these two guys out of a lineup to be really, really close friends. And whenever I see stuff like that, where people genuinely care about another, about their friendship, about the relationship, it's meaningful. It means a lot to me to have that in my life with my friends and my mentors and people who look up to me, right? Big brother, little brother program. That means a lot. And I think that's what coaching is all about, and helping people along the way. I think it's special, man. I love it. And I think he makes a special connection with his players. We got a Mad Max sighting. He was in attendance, and we know he's fired up. Mad Max is fired up. We know that because he was on his podcast, The Rush, and he talked about how fired up he was. Mark Davis was fired up. Fired up. Last week, Mark Davis, I gave him my game ball. This week, I applaud him. I feel like I really see the vision. I really do. Mark Davis gets clowned on, gets dunked on a lot. But look, he made a really smart business move here. He got Tom Brady in the building. Tom Brady's a Raider. He's part of the ownership group. A lot of credit is going to TB12. But who brought TB to the Raiders? Mark Davis. Mark Davis brought him to the Raiders. Mark Davis in his post-presser interview. It wasn't a game. Post-presser. I need to fix that in the script. We'll do it over. Just kidding. He says John Gruden gets his head cut off. This is clearly in the email leak. And, the apple did not fall far from the tree, Mark Davis. This was clearly like his father, Mark Davis, giving the NFL, the middle finger, maybe double middle fingers. To me, I think, like, why would you bring that up? Why would you bring that up at this point? Like, that's definitely a shot at the NFL and the competition. There's no reason to bring it up. You're clearly salty about it. You're clearly upset. This would be halfway through the Gruden deal. So to me, I think this is like Mark Davis's victory lap here to a degree. He doesn't do a whole lot of interviews, and I think this is Mark Davis's victory lap. I think Mark is like, look, you took Gruden, you cut his head off, you leaked the emails, and it destroyed my team. It destroyed the Raiders that year. The Raiders make the playoffs with Rich Bisaccia. We know that. But the Raiders were getting better. Their roster was getting better. And the team just was destroyed. You destroyed the Raiders. You ruined his business. We don't know what would happen. We don't know what would have happened that season or beyond with John Gruden. All we know is that they were 3-0 and they were getting better until this mess happened. And I'm not defending John Gruden. What he said, what he did, what he emailed was horrible. I'm just saying that he stepped down, got fired, however you want to say it. And then it led to McDaniels and then Antonio Pierce and then today. Does Mark Davis fire John Gruden? I don't know. When that deal happened, my theory was I don't think John Gruden was going to coach 10 years. I think at like year 7 or 8, John Gruden would probably transition to some type of vice president of football operations and become what Tom Brady is now. I think that's really what Mark Davis was going to do, was get John Gruden to coach up the program and then move into the front office and basically be the VP of operations of football and have his own GM, his own coaches, and basically he was running everything. I think that's kind of what the plan was going towards with the 10-year, $100 million deal. And I think the victory lap is Mark Davis took the NFL's golden boy. He took the GOAT. He took the highest decorated quarterback of all time, and you flipped him to be a Raider. He joined the dark side. This is Mark Davis flipping the league off. Why would you bring this up? Why would you say that? I promise you that Tom Brady being part of the Raiders out of all the franchises pisses them off. Like they're going to smile about it. They're lying. having Tom Brady as a Raider ownership group, I think this pisses them off. I think Mark Davis showed his 40-pound silver testicles there, so I'll just leave that there. But I just really thought it was hilarious that that Mark Davis was talking about John Gruden. I definitely think it's a victory lap. What do you guys think? Moving on, guys. Coaching staff. Patrick Graham is returning to the Raiders. We heard the speculation for the past couple of days. He is staying with the Raiders. This is amazing. This is wonderful news for Max Crosby, for Christian Wilkins, for all the players that are going to be returning on the defensive side of the football, all the new players that are coming in, the language, the scheme, of course there's going to be new ideas from Coach Carroll, but a lot of this stuff is from a consistency point of view, makes sense. This is really good. Amazing news. I love it. We have heard about Pete Carroll being a legendary recruiter, and I think he worked his ass off to retain Patrick Graham, who was potentially going to be a head coach and then a defensive coordinator. And I think he is going to be a head coach maybe next year. Maybe there's a succession plan. Pete Carroll only has 3 years and a 4th-year option. Hey, maybe Patrick Graham rides it out, and in 3 years, he's the Aaron Glenn. He's the hottest defensive coordinator. He gets promoted as the head coach of the Raiders. I'm just saying Patrick Graham's a really good coach, and he has opportunity to be a head coach, and he probably will be in this league. He comes back to the Raiders. This is amazing. To have that consistency, the stability. I know a lot of people who don't watch Raider football are going to say, they're going to point to the win-loss record, and they're going to look at this stat and that stat. That's fine. The problem for this defense was they were on the field way too long. They lost the time of possession battle almost every game. This defense was just burnt out. Like, you would see that the games would be somewhat close, and somewhere they gave up a big play, and it was after the Raiders offense just could not sustain any drives. It was 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, field goal, 3 and out, field goal, touchdowns, extended drives. Didn't happen enough for this offense. They didn't perform. That's why they're drafting number 6. I don't think it was the defense. They were burnt. I think, Darrell Bevell. Does Darrell Bevell get you excited as an offensive coordinator? For me, knee-jerk reaction? Not really. But the longer I think about it, I get fired up over it. I don't know if that instant reaction is a good thing or a bad thing. But as I think about it, as I break it down, it makes sense. On one hand, it doesn't sound like a big name, doesn't strike fear into opposing defenses. That initial reaction is not, yes. Then on the flip side of the coin, Darrell Bevell is an extremely well-respected head offensive coordinator. He's currently the quarterback coach and passing game coordinator for Miami. So he's won a Super Bowl with Pete Carroll when he was over in Seattle. So he's ran a Super Bowl winning offense, and we know about the interception. We know. In Miami, the offense is pretty good. And I know they have their issues, they have their problems, but I think a lot of this is due to the injury of the quarterback. When healthy, Tua is really good. but he's hurt and he gets hurt. And I don't want to crush the guy, but it's the head injuries. And all I'm going to say is we're concerned. I'm concerned that there's only so much that the young man can take. It's a brutal sport, and it's just he's missing a lot of playing time, and he's very talented, and to replace that is not an easy thing. You know, Belleville has won a Super Bowl. Russell Wilson was a really good quarterback for 10 years. Pete Carroll talked about that in the press conference, about how many games he's won. Had the opportunity to be a 2-time winning Super Bowl quarterback. Unfortunately, we know about the interception, right? For 10 years, you know, Russell Wilson had an amazing run. Nothing to scoff at. Also, you need really good coaches who will buy into the culture and that program and the 3 rules. You need teachers to teach the program, and Bevell has done that. This is equivalent to me like Jim Harbaugh goes somewhere and somehow, some way, Greg Roman follows him. So to have Patrick Graham returning, that gives you stability on the defensive side of the ball, allows you to really focus on the offensive side of the ball, get the offense going, get the concepts installed, getting all that in. I think with Darrell Bevell, this would be really good news for someone like Aiden O'Connell. I think Aiden can run an offense that is, you know, a quarterback not having to run around and do a whole lot. The ball is make the read, the ball is out. I think he can do that. I'm not saying that Aiden, that's going to be the guy that I roll with as my number one. I like him in the room. We'll talk a little bit about the quarterback position later, but I love the kid's moxie. You know, we hear about all the religious stuff, but the dude is, you know, he has something to him. There's some juice to the orange here. I don't think he's necessarily the number one guy, but I'm willing to see what he offers. He did walk on at Penn State as like the 8th quarterback, 9th quarterback. I don't know. He was buried in the depth chart, and he left there with records. So there's something there. I'd like to see more, and I think stability from somebody like Darrell Bevell and the just the coaching of Pete Carroll and trying to find that player inside. Special teams. Tom McMahon, special teams coordinator. Really great news that he's staying. The Raiders special teams really wasn't the problem with the team, especially on the kicking side of the ball. Daniel Carson, punter, AJ Cole. This gives them stability. This is, you know, something, again, allows you to focus on offensive defense, allows you to focus on free agency, consistency, stability for the players. That means a lot to me. This tells me that Pete Carroll spoke to the players, spoke to the coaches, and these were guys that he was comfortable with bringing back. If they were duds, you're not bringing them back. So I think these are really good. These are really good hires for continuity and stability. Some new potential coaches, Brennan Carroll and Nate Carroll, sons of Pete Carroll. I'm going to be honest, I don't know a whole lot about them, so I've been reading up on them. Brennan is actually the offensive coordinator of the Washington Huskies. And Nate is the quarterback coach, passing game coordinator in Carolina now, I believe. I believe that's right. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think Nate Carroll will stay in Carolina because I think he just signed a deal to go to Carolina. So I think he might just stay there for a year, 2 years, whatever. I think Brennan might be a coach that does come to the Raiders, and I could see him coming in as some type of assistant coach of some kind. Again, it's just about bringing guys in that can preach what the culture. It's all about that culture, that buy-in culture. potentially a reunion with Bo Hardigree. I thought this was pretty interesting. If you bring back Bo Hardigree as your quarterback coach, I think, again, this is really good for Aiden O'Connell. This makes sense. This would be good for him. And I think if you bring him back, I think it speaks to what Aiden said. It speaks to the coaches that are remaining on your staff. They're clearly talking to the front office people that are currently still employed by the Raiders. I thought that was an interesting name that I read online about potentially being around a reunion. Tom Cable. I've heard about Tom Cable. Are you ready for a Tom Cable reunion? Cable guy. I know Tom Cable has been with the Raiders off and on quite a bit, but I'm really not mad if Tom Cable returned as offensive line coach. He's a hell of an offensive line coach. I believe he also won a Super Bowl with Pete Carroll. Correct me if I'm wrong on that one too. Overall, I really love the mix that they're putting together in the coaching staff. And I'm sure the same thing is going to happen in the front office. Spytek, he talked about Cleveland, and that Cleveland, at the time, there was really good people there. It just needed a shakeup. And those people did a lot of good work. And those people are still in the league at various spots in the NFL. And some of them went to Tampa Bay with John Spytek. And I think they're going to go through their front office list and keep guys there too. And they're all having input. So they're turning the roster over already. And some guys are going to stay. Some guys are gone. With that, let's talk about the roster. I think there's 29 guys that are free agents. And we know Spytek, Carroll, they're going to turn this roster over. It happened in Seattle, and it'll most likely happen here. Amir Abdullah, Harrison Bryant, Adam Butler, Kavon Chasen, Devon Diablo, Marcus Epps, Nate Hobbs, John Jenkins, Malcolm Kuntz, Alexander Madison, Trayvon Morig, Robert Spillane, Cody Whitehair, Zach Carter, Luke Masterson, Paul Lamau, Desmond Ritter, DJ Turner, Muaga, Sam Webb, too many to name. Named the ones that have had a high impact. I don't think all of these guys are going to be offered contracts. I think they really want to turn this roster over, so I don't really think that all of these guys are going to get a contract offer. This roster is definitely going to be turned over. Mad Max, I think he is 100% bought in. He's fired up. We know it because he said it on his podcast. And I really believe the Raiders are going to get him a new contract, back up the Brinks truck, new guaranteed money. They're going to lock him up. I think that's going to be very high on the priority list. Christian Wilkins, I could really see him coming back. The Raiders have a ton of cap room. Before the injury, he never missed a game. I really think he can have a bounce back year. You pair him up next to Mad Max. You get a healthy Malcolm Kuntz back. You bring him back. That is a player that, you spend a lot of money on. Hopefully you get him back healthy and he has a bounce back year. I would roll the dice and bring him back. Like, you already have a ton of cap room. You could, if he gets hurt again or he sucks, you could deal with this next year. I just see the value of keeping him. I think he could bounce back and be a solid running mate with Mad Max in that defensive line. Jumping over to the draft a little bit. Personally, I'm not trading up for either one of these quarterbacks. I'm really not sold on either one, to be honest. I much rather see what happens at the end of the first round, second round, to see what happens with Jackson Dart. Like, if I'm going to draft a quarterback, a younger quarterback, I just think Jackson Dart, the value, what you get in the second round, I just, these two guys, Shedeur Sanders, Cam Ward, don't scream top 5, top 3 pick to me. I think if you were talking to the pros in the John Spytek office, I think they would have hit these guys in the second to third round based on like where they are as football players. I think just because of the quarterback position, they're elevated. It's inflated. I would not take either one of these quarterbacks in the first round. Gun to my head, I would take Cam Ward. All right, with that said, with the 6th overall pick, the Raiders select the best player available. Here's my little bit of a list. Not necessarily in this order. I think the first pick would if somehow this person fell to number 6, I'm definitely taking him. This would be, I think, one of 2 players, 3 players maybe that I would be okay with trading up and getting. And this is T-Mac. He's the best wide receiver coming out of college this year. This kid is going to be a star right away. You pair him up next to Jacoby Myers, Brock Bowers. One of those guys is getting open. That would be a quarterback's dream. Pete Carroll talked about playing quarterback is the hardest thing to do in professional sports, and you got to make it as easy as possible. Having McMillan on your team as a young wide receiver next to a very professional Jacoby Myers and the exceptional Brock Bowers, he's already flashing. That would be a dynamic passing core. That would be a dynamic player on this offense that can instantly make a difference. And again, year 2 into this thing, I think you can make this a very sexy destination for a free agent quarterback or a quarterback who's disgruntled and you want to come here. You got McMillan, you got Bowers, you got Jacoby Myers. Maybe you could get a quarterback in the later rounds. It's a very deep running back class. You could really change your offense here. This is the only player that I would really feel like if the Raiders traded up to number 2 and took him, I wouldn't be mad. I would not be mad. If the Raiders moved up and drafted McMillan, I would not be mad. My next player, if he fell to number 6, or if the Raiders moved up, would be Abdul Carter. I know we got a lot of guys that we drafted very high on the defensive line. Abdul Carter is a freak athlete. You're talking about him, Max Crosby, and Christian Wilkins on that line. I don't know, man. I think they would be able to get after the quarterback consistently and constantly. Mason Graham, Michigan. Mason Graham, Michigan kid. Jim Harbaugh would be pissed, and I would love to have him on the Raiders. I love this kid's attitude. I love this hit that he put on this man in the photo. I love that hit. I just think this guy could really change your line, similar to what's going on in Philadelphia is just that defensive line just gets after it. They stop the run. They get after the quarterback. And I could see that Mason Graham, again, next to Christian Wilkins, Max Crosby, you bring back a healthy Malcolm Kuntz. That is a hell of a defensive line. Next up, Will Johnson, cornerback. Michigan kid, same thing. Piss off Jim Harbaugh. Have these guys go to the Raiders. Prototypical cornerback. they need the best players available. I just think this goes into kind of like the Raiders version of the Legion of Boom, right? You got to start at the defense, get the ball back, generate turnovers. That's the type of team that Pete Carroll likes. I would definitely love to see Will Johnson here at number 6. Malachi Starks. We know what these Georgia Bulldog dudes do in the NFL. This guy has a possibility to be, like I said, the Cam Chancellor, the Patrick Sherman, that Legion of Boom, man, the secondary. I would love this pick at number 6. I love that we would continue to build the defense because, like I said earlier, the problem isn't the defense. It's the offense being able to stay on the field. If the Raiders, I think this would be, most people would say this is a little high. If they took Ashton Gianti, the running back out of Boise, I think most people would say, oh, that's a little high. And I would probably agree. However, if he's there and all of the guys that I just mentioned before are gone, I would take Ashton Gianti. I just take him. Again, you add him to this offense with Brock Bowers, Jacoby Myers. I think you help out your quarterback. Shout out Saquon Barkley in Philly. He's going to the Super Bowl. I think taking the best running back of this class, I'm not mad at. I do think it's a little high, but like I said, if these other guys are they're off the board, I'm not mad at that. I'm really not mad at that. All right, guys, I got to wrap this thing up. We've been going for a little bit, but please hit the like and subscribe button. I want to do more videos like this. I'm having a lot of fun breaking this down. I'm very excited about what's happening next. So with that said, have a wonderful night. If you want more Raider reactions, please hit the like, subscription. Bye. Be well. Stay fired up, guys.